Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed.
Peace, this TA coming to you from South Jamaica from the Law Library. We here every Friday from 11 to 1, me and my brother Ykim, and we here to give y'all the jewels that we got about the law, about the Constitution, about housing, court, divorce, and everything. Get with us, man. Here's my brother Ykim.
Yo. Peace. This is Ykim, the other half of the Law Library with TA and Ykim. Listen, we're going to teach you your rights, the Constitution, and we're going to tell you the difference between rights and privileges. We're going to talk about many topics: housing court, Supreme Court, civil court, lawsuits, how to defend yourself, how to answer a complaint. We're also going to have people that deal with social work, women that have children that have been involved in the system. We're going to teach you everything we know, because guess what? We got to stand up and we got to wake up. You heard me? Peace. Ykim, Law Library with TA and Ty.
Peace, this is TA and Ykim. We coming to you from the Law Library. Welcome tonight. We talking about nothing but the law tonight. That's all we're talking about. Why?
Peace. Yo. This is Ykim, the other half of the Law Library. TA and Ykim. I'm Ykim. Peace and blessings, family. So tonight we're going to talk about some federal law, specifically the RICO Act. That's the Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organization Act. And it's a law that's being used against people in our community now. The law originally originated to address white-collar crime, and it was passed in 1970, and it dealt with criminal white-collar crimes that Caucasian people was doing, specifically to address the labor laws and stuff like that. You heard of Jimmy Hoffa, nobody never found his body, and that's what it was originally meant for. But now, the tentacles of the federal government has reached deep into the black and brown community, and what they're doing is they're scaling criminal activities by alleged AKA gang members, and it's to cause them to be incarcerated for an extended period of time. We already have the federal conspiracy laws, which I was convicted under, as I told you in the last episode. So now the penalties, the acts are pretty much the same, but the penalties are increased under RICO. And what it deals with is what they call structured crime. You know, there's different levels. There's bosses, lieutenants, captains, soldiers, street soldiers, and everything like that. So basically, it's a way for the government to take anybody, a group of people that do crime, whether together or separately. Now listen, whether together or separately, to charge them under this act. I'm going to read the act to you, and my brother's going to tell you about some cases he's working on, or we working on together. So what it says is Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. The Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act is a United States federal law that provides for extended criminal penalties. That's what I was saying. The penalties are a little bit more higher than the ordinary federal drug conspiracy or money laundering conspiracy. It's a way to increase the time in prison that the person gets convicted of. So where did it go? Okay, hold on. Get this out. So nevertheless, we're talking about the RICO Act. Go ahead, bro.
All right, first just let me clarify that it's not just the federal government. The states have RICO acts too. Like in the state of New York, it's known as the OCCA, which stands for the Organized Crime Criminal Act in the state of New York, and it came about in 1986. Now, when he mentions that it has an enhanced penalty, that's because you can get up to 20 years for every count that's in the RICO indictment if you should be charged with it. This is the new thing that they're coming down with to battle this gang activity. It's really coming out of Georgia with Young Thug and them, right? But it's being used in other states also. This is going to be the new tool to battle, the gangs and everything, right? And the act, you was right, it did start in 1970, and it was brought about because they wanted to battle the mafia. That's who it was brought about, right? But it's something that we need to know, especially our youth who are in these gangs and some who aren't in the gangs, who just be around, that you can be picked up under a RICO Act. And there's certain things they got that's called overt acts. Like me and you could sit here and talk about something, but if it's a third party here and he goes out and do something, that's a conspiracy that we can all be charged under the RICO Act.
But question.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, me and you be sitting here and the third party goes
Talking
out.
to the mic. So.
Me and you could be sitting here and the third party's over there on the other side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes out and do something on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the overt act.
That's an overt act.
Of what they're going to charge as the conspiracy.
Each one of us is going to be charged with whatever it is he did, whether you was there or whether you was not. And that's something else that's important. If us three is here, but they allege it's 7 of us and 4 of them ain't here, they can be charged also.
Right.
You know, so it's real important that you know this, man, you know, because this is what's going on. And plus I need to let y'all know it's targeted not just at gangs, but at the rap industry. At the rap industry, man. You know, they got Young Thug, they got what's the other kid? LFN Lucci, you know, they got them under the same exact thing, different charges. Even they're alleging that they're beefing with each other, but they facing the same kind of time.
So let me ask you this, because originally the federal government came in 1970 with RICO. Then you said in '86 the state of New York came.
The state of New York came with the Organized Crime Criminal Act. You don't have to take my word for it. Google it.
Okay, so it's formatted.
It's formatted and copied off the federal government. Okay. There's 35 crimes that you can be charged with by the federal government under RICO. There's 8 crimes you could be charged under the state RICO.
And that's it?
That's it. 8 under the state RICO. You know, now I really don't know what Young Thug is, because they got a whole thing of charges against him, right? But he really needs to look and see if all those charges are a part of the state's RICO Act. He is not charged with a federal RICO, he's charged with a state RICO. And in the state of New York, I forgot what all 8 of. One is murder, drugs, trafficking, and not just drugs, but it could be human trafficking also. Drugs, gambling, human trafficking, money laundering, and there's 4 others. But as I always say, don't take my word for it. Just look it up. Ask Google, and they'll give you the answer, right? And that's real important that y'all do that, because there's going to be times that I don't recollect certain things. So so what I do want you to do is to know the truth. So you Google it, you know, and if you send in a comment saying you don't want to Google, that you want me to answer it, then you just got to wait for me to answer it, right? Because I will do the research to answer it, right? But the RICO law is something, and it's been started in New York, right? Like when I was locked up in the feds, they did a terrible thing to the Cortlandt Avenue crew. You know, they was bringing them in so fast and so hard, 18 one day, 29 the next day, 33.
Under RICO?
Under RICO, you know.
Okay.
You know, so you really got to be conscious of what you do and how you do it and what you say, because it can play a part in your future, right? Now, that's just one of the things that we're going to talk about. Another thing is the federal sentencing chart, which
great.
a lot of people don't know. See,
Before you go into that, I got to ask you a question. I don't mean to interrupt. And we talked about cutting each other off. I'm not trying to cut you off. But the RICO Act was an attempt, not an attempt, because they actually did it, was intended to give out, upon conviction, enhanced penalties other than compared to like the regular federal drug statute. So my question to you is, if you know it, are these individual crimes, if upon conviction, the sentences, are they ran concurrent or are they ran consecutive?
most times they're ran consecutive.
Consecutive
See,
means,
this is what you
explain
need
to
to
the
know
people.
about the RICO law, right?
Yeah.
Under the federal standard,
Okay.
20 years is the most you can get off.
Okay. So then,
20 years is the most, but if you're charged in a 10-count indictment and you're convicted, then you can get 200 years. 20 years off every count. And if it's a civil RICO, like say if they say you defrauded somebody for $100,000, and then these people take you to court and sue you and win, then you're going to pay $300,000 because it's a threefold penalty.
got to replace that.
And then, it's a threefold penalty. So
what's the threefold?
The 300,000. You only took 100,000, but the least you're going to have to pay if you lose a civil conviction RICO is 300,000. It's 3 times whatever the amount of money that the people say they lost. It's 3 times that amount that you're liable for. And again, don't take my word. Look it up. It's nothing but a little bit of reading. That's all it is. But I really want to touch on the federal sentencing chart because this affects a lot of people. I just had a kid call on me tonight. He got busted down in Virginia, drugs, right?
Okay.
He said, man, they gave me 30 years, but the lawyer told me that I was going to get 10 years, right? Which he has an issue with that. But it's so important that you know this if you're locked up, that I always say it, nobody should have a greater incentive than knowing these things than you, right? Now, the lawyer failed to tell him about the categories. See, this is how your sentence is based upon the categories, right?
Offense level?
Like, say, if you got 4 prior felonies, right? Then that puts you in a whole different league, right? So, you ain't facing 10 years, right? You might be facing 10 years if you're in category 1, level 28, 29, right? But if you got 4 felonies, that moves you over 2 categories. So that 10 years now could turn into 20 or 30. I really don't know for sure because it's not right here in front of me, right? But you gotta be aware of this. There's a lot of brothers in Brooklyn. Some of them I know, some of them I don't. They too busy smoking K2.
K2?
They don't want to get on the law library. Chaosity, right? Oh, I ain't got time for that. I got a lawyer.
What do you mean in Brooklyn? MDC Brooklyn?
MDC. Man.
Oh, you just
MDC, MCC, Philly, MDC. I
those
don't
are
care
federal
which ones
detention
you
centers.
in. They not utilizing what's right in front of them, man.
How can they be smoking K2?
Yeah, well, then they need to stop smoking. They need to, first off, they need to stop lying to themselves. You got a CJA lawyer.
What's that?
The court appointed a lawyer to you.
Okay.
It's called the Criminal Justice Act.
Right.
That's what it's called, the Criminal Justice Act. That's where they appoint a lawyer to you. If we was in the state, he would be a 18B.
Right.
So stop lying to yourself and help yourself by getting on that computer, learning about your case, man.
all that make-believe shit about you had 4 Mercedes-Benz and the block and all that shit there, it don't matter. It don't matter. If you're not trying to come home, then get out the way and let somebody else do it, man.
Can I say something about that?
Of course you can.
Well, my comment about that is, if you down and out and you sitting in a federal detention center and you have the capabilities of getting this K2 in, which is contraband, if you're under the influence of drugs, and this is why I say a lot of what we be talking about, crime, the youth, gangs and all that, that is a serious mental health issue. That is in layman's terms, you got to be crazy to be sitting in a federal detention center facing 30, 40, 50 years in jail, and the best thing you could do is smoke a mind-altering drug.
Well,
K2. I mean, that in the layman's terms, I think that shit is crazy.
that's something that I'll agree with to a certain extent, but
Okay.
everybody in jail ain't crazy, right?
Now, I'm just talking about the ones you said smoking
And
K2.
there's some in there that ain't smoking K2 that
Okay.
still ain't doing shit. They ain't watching TV and acting important by reading the newspaper, you know,
Okay.
but that's not helping you. You know, this is a program about educating, that we want to educate you on the law. You know, regardless of some of the crazy shit you're going to hear me say, it's
Okay.
about the law, man. That's the only way you can get out of jail is by learning the law. Look at a childhood friend of mine. He just got sent back to court after 20 years. He never gave up. He never stopped fighting. And a lot of people know him and shit, right? And he's back in court. He's back in court after 20 years. If he would have given up, he'll have 21 in next year. And then 22 and 23. You know, the law goes hand in hand with prayer. You know, prayer requires action. So if you pray, then your part of the prayer is that you're going to do the legal work to help the lawyer. Believe me
Right.
when I tell you this, the lawyer needs help. John Gotti, bless him, went to the law library. You know, all those other brothers in there with them 20s and 30s in, they go to the law library regularly, man.
The ones that know how to utilize it.
They trying to find a way
Way
out.
out.
There's only one way that you're going to learn to utilize it, is you got to take the first step into the room. If you don't take the first step, whoever telling you whatever they saying to you, look at where you're getting your information from. He's still there. There's guys who actually coming home, man. There's guys who are getting reversals, man. You know, that's from studying the RICO law and see where, oh snap, they messed up. They did this, or they included this, or they sentenced me for this. That's not one of the 35 crimes on the federal level or 8 crimes on the state level. And I'm only talking about New York and the feds right now, because it could be 9 charges in another state. I really don't know. There's still 8 states that they waiting to get on board. I know New Jersey is one. I think they said that Alabama was one that doesn't have the RICO statute on the state level. You know, but even if they got it, or even if they don't, if you're locked up, you should have some legal work in your cell that you can read over. You know,
Or if you got on bail.
dudes used to give me their paperwork, right?
Yeah.
And I asked them a question. Yo, did you see what they said on page 242? Nah, T.
They didn't even read that.
When dudes used to ask me questions about, well, which page that it states this, I could tell you what page it states that, what line it states that. Because that's all I wanted to do was read these papers, because the error was in the paperwork. So I had to find it. And the only way you're going to know it is to read it, to be repetitious with it, to be redundant with it, read it over and over and over and over. Nobody should know your case better than you. Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah, I'm going to let you finish because I wanted to go back to the guidelines. I have
All
pulled
right,
it
well,
up.
go ahead.
I wanted to explain to the people what the guidelines are, federal guidelines. So the guidelines assign most federal crimes an offense level. That means from 1 to 43. These are the offense levels. And I know off the back of my hand, top of my head, that there's 6 criminal history categories. And within those categories, one goes
The offense level
this way,
goes down.
and the criminal history categories go across.
Yeah.
So 43, offense level 43, category 6 is the highest you're going to get. Unless, like you say, something goes wrong and you catch it. Because some judges will say, fuck the guidelines, I'm going outside the guidelines. Because they have discretion to go outside the guidelines based on different factors. So a factor could be, hypothetically, a person commits a murder during the course of a drug stash house robbery. Now, ordinarily, grown people will be in this robbery, in this house. And I'm talking about people at the age of 18 and over. So, a mitigating factor might be there was a baby in the room. What if a shootout would have occurred? So, something like that, a judge might say, well, damn, he ain't had no regard for human life. A baby was in the crib. And they came in raw, even though the house was a drug house or whatever it is, a stash house or whatever, there's a baby involved now in the crime. So the judge can say, based on your offense level and your guidelines in criminal history, I can sentence you to 30 years. But because there's the baby in the crib, when I say crib, I'm talking about baby crib. But if the baby's in the house, he can say, well, I find reason to depart outside of the guidelines, and the mitigating factor is that there was a baby in there. So now, by the baby being there, the judge can say, I'm not going to sentence you to 30 years, which is the max that you could get under the guidelines. So going outside of the guidelines, and I find that you have a great disregard for human life because there was a 6-month-old baby in the crib, and sentence you to 60 years. Now, once he does that, it's up to you to change that. You know, you got to fight that back. You can say wasn't no baby, it was a dog. Whatever argument that you come up with, but the judge is not bound at all times to follow the federal sentencing guidelines. Now, I'm gonna give you a real life example. In my case, when I was going for sentencing, I challenged everything. Everything that came back in the PSI, I challenged it. So, what happened was, like my brother said, they used prior state convictions to put you in these categories. I fell in category 6. And the reason why I fell in category 6 was I had 3 prior state convictions. But when I was sentenced under those 3 prior state convictions, it counted as 1. I think we talked about that on the last episode. But nevertheless, excuse me, nevertheless, when I got sentenced in the state of New York, it was 3 different sentences, but they ran concurrent. And what happened was the judge in the federal case, when I got convicted there, he counted them individually. So I challenged that. And when I challenged that, I presented him with the New York law that said that if you sentence on the same day, even though they're different crimes, it's 1 sentence. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that. So what he said to me was, that's a good point, but I got to disregard that. So I said, why you got to disregard that? You know, I want the lowest sentence. I don't want this 15 years. He said, sure, you're getting the 15 years. And all that what you said is good, but it don't matter because you have what's called a cap plea. You agreed to a certain amount of time. Can't go over it, can't go under it. So he said, that argument was good, and I did this myself, pro se in front of the federal judge in South Carolina. He said, good point, but because you got a cap plea, my hands is tied. I got to give you what you agreed to. So no matter how hard I argued, it was pointless. But that don't mean that don't apply to you. So you got to challenge, at sentencing, you get a chance Okay, let me back up. Once you found guilty, whether you plead or you blow trial by jury or by judge, they're going to do what's called a pre-sentence report. In New York, it's called a probation report. They go and get your whole past history as a part of the judge knowing who you are by what the papers say. He ain't never sat down to dinner with you. He ain't never played the game of basketball with you. So he really don't know you. He's going by what the probation officer finds out only from your criminal record. They don't go talk to your family and say, oh, Ykim was a good boy in school. He got A+. They don't go by that. They go by what's in the computer, National Crime Computer. Anytime you've been arrested, convicted, guilty, went to trial, whatever, that's what they go by. So what I'm saying to you is, once that report is prepared, they call it PSI, pre-sentence investigation, PSR, pre-sentence report. But it's a report that goes into your past history, criminal. And
Not just criminal, bro. Not
well,
just,
I never seen
just,
nobody get
just
penalized
let me
for a civil
interrupt you.
case.
Just let me interrupt you. That
Go
they did contact my family.
Oh, in your case?
In my case, they
Okay.
did contact my family.
Okay.
You know, they spoke to my mother, my sister, my
Talk to
brother.
you. Okay.
It's whoever you give them the information to talk to.
Okay.
See, listen, what y'all need to understand is the federal system is the only system that rewards you for fucked up shit that happened in your background.
Oh shit, they need
In
to come
your
back and
background,
re-sentence me the
right?
last time.
No,
What?
seriously. No,
Yeah,
seriously.
give me an example
right?
of that one.
Like I worked on several federal cases
Mhm.
where I actually told a couple of dudes, say you was molested. Dude, I wasn't molested. I don't care if you was or if you wasn't.
Mhm.
They reward you for messed up stuff. Like I told the judge, I've been an alcoholic since I was 7 years old. That led me to sniff dope, smoke crack, sniff dope, you know.
Mhm.
And the government wanted to give me a certain amount of time, and the judge said, no, I'm not going to do that because of the traumatic childhood he's had. And this might not work for everybody, but I've been on several cases where guys actually received a benefit from it,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Also,
I think
you
you do that in the state
also
of New York too.
also what I want to say is a federal judge never has to accept a plea agreement.
Not at all.
He
can always
never.
reject
He
it.
can reject it
Yeah.
at any point. He could say, you know, the government could be saying, well, I want him to have 25 years. The judge could say, no, I'm not giving him that. I'm giving him less. And then the lawyer could say,
Go ahead.
except what?
When is mandatory minimum?
Except on mandatory minimums, right?
Yeah.
And those normally come with 924Cs, which is gun charges.
You got them at 841,
Right,
846.
and then you got them in drug charges, which is 18 USC 841, 18 USC 846. One is an
And
actual,
848.
one is an actual possession, and then the other one is a conspiracy, right? And the 848 is a kingpin statute.
Correct.
That's a kingpin statute, you know. But a judge never has to accept a plea. You know, so basically when you do plead, you at the mercy of the court. That's who you're at, the mercy of the court. You know, there's been a lot of instances where the judge has rejected a plea, and then it's been instances where the judge just go along with whatever the AUSA say. You know.
So briefly, real quick, if you don't mind. So if you're out there and you or a family member is dealing with a federal criminal case, and you want to know about plea agreements, there's
11C.
There's a number of subsections that deal with it, and that's found at Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure, Rule 11.
Yeah, Rule 11,
And they got
actually.
A, B, C,
Right.
D.
Right.
So Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure, Rule 11, is where you'll find the different type of pleas.
Yeah. Hey, man, this here is all we're saying to y'all, right? Is to learn this stuff, man. Seriously. Learn it. Especially if you're doing anything that you don't want nobody to know. You know, learn what you're doing. Learn the penalties for what you're doing. Learn the consequences for what you're doing.
Critical and consequential thinking.
You know,
That's
like,
what you gotta do.
it's serious business, man. It's serious business. Believe me, they locking us up at a tremendous rate. You know.
So let me just throw this in there. There's some times where, and we're talking about law, like my brother said, we're going to talk strictly about law. So there's some times when people are brought before the court and are offered a plea, and they really don't want it, but the pressure's there. There's a thing called alpha plea. And the alpha plea is where you plead guilty, but you're not admitting to your guilt.
But what's the name
So-
of the actual plea?
Alpha plea.
Alfred and Sereno.
Sereno's in the state,
North
right?
Carolina versus Alfred. The people of the state of New York versus Sereno. That's
Okay.
what it's called, right?
Right, so Sereno
And-
is New York State.
And the
Alfred
Alfred
is
Sereno plea is where you plead guilty, not because you're in fact guilty, but you're scared that you could get a maximum sentence, right? And most times it's done, you don't have to allocute to it.
Tell them what allocute means.
Stand there and say you did this and did that.
Right.
You know, the lawyers say that my client takes an Alfred plea, Your Honor, blah, 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 so forth, so on.
You don't have to say one word about the
And that I've very seldom heard of it used in federal court.
crime. Yeah,
You know, but it's a federal case, North Carolina
Right.
versus Alfred,
exactly.
and people of the state of New York versus Sereno. You know, I've taken the Alfred plea before. You know,
Not Alfred, Alfred.
Alfred, Alford,
Alfred.
Alfred,
Not Alfred.
North Carolina versus
Versus
Alfred. That's what it's called.
Right.
Alford.
Right.
I forgot what year it comes from. It's an old
I've
case.
never seen it. You can pull it up, just Google it. You
It's
can
an
Google
old case, you know.
it. Right.
But just as we always say, don't take our word for it. Google it. Google it. You know. That's
Okay.
why I like to spell the cases to them, yeah. You know. But that's what that is, right? That's a form of saying I'm pleading guilty, not because I am in fact guilty. I am afraid that you're going to give me all this time here. You know, I've taken that plea
Yeah, when was that?
just to get around it. I think I had a gun charge or something back in the 80s, and I took it, got 2.5 to 5 or some shit like that. You know,
So you wasn't guilty.
I was
but you
guilty
said
as
you was
a
guilty.
motherfucker. I'm
Wait,
not gonna
wait.
sit here and lie. I was,
You was guilty.
as a motherfucker.
But you, oh wait, I said that backwards. You wasn't guilty,
I was guilty.
but you said, okay.
But I said that I was
Okay.
scared y'all was gonna give me all
Oh,
this
wait,
time.
wait. Well, I
Yeah.
remember a couple of episodes you said you was a gangster, a killer, dope dealer,
Still am.
big brother.
Still am. Did all those things. Did all
punk
those
ass
things.
motherfucker.
Did all those things. But see,
But you was
listen.
scared of it.
Listen. This
I
is
thought
the
the
object.
7 years was the max for a gun charge.
No.
Simple possession.
No. You actually can get
Huh?
life for a gun if you're a
Depends on
persistent
your-
felon. If
Right.
you're a persistent felon, you can get 25 to life
A
for a
persistent
gun.
felon is a person been
For a
convicted
gun.
3 times.
See,
Yeah.
this is what y'all need to know. All these paper felonies y'all unto. Oh, I take 6 months, 5 years probation. First felony. Next felony, they send you to war kill. Second felony. Third time you get busted, you're looking at life in prison. Don't take my word for it. Look under CPL 70 point
70.02.
and just read the whole thing,
Or start
right?
at 70.
You know, it starts at 70. That's the beginning of the chapter, right?
70.00.
Look, man, if you have to go to jail, the object is to get the less time you can get and get out of jail. If you're locked up, the object is to fight to get out, right?
Right.
Some dudes psych themselves out. Oh, I'm going to do this 30 years old. You're mentally retarded.
Is
I
that
tell
dealing with
you
the
no
mental
lie.
health I just said?
I tell you no lie.
Ain't that the same thing?
That you're mentally retarded, right?
They don't use that term no more.
Yeah, I don't care what term they use. That's the term I use.
You have a
right?
mental disability.
Okay, if that's how you
that's
want to
what
call it, listen to that shit he say, and you're
Google
just
it.
write and ask
Google
him. that you want a paycheck. Just tell them you
They
suffer from a
find out-
disability.
they
From a
find out-
disability, right?
That you using the word retarded, you're gonna have a problem.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are.
No, you're not. Well, tell them I said it.
Okay.
Tell them I said it.
And then you have to take an alpha plea.
Tell them I said it. You know. But
But look,
seriously, seriously, man.
I can make it serious.
Seriously, that you really got to know this stuff, man.
Right.
That they taking y'all life from y'all every day, and y'all are in jail telling people I did not understand. It's no reason for not knowing what's happening with you, what's going on with you. Don't listen to what the lawyers say. Go
for
find
yourself.
out.
Yeah,
Go find out.
That's right.
You know, ask the judge. Judge, could you explain it to me, please?
Right.
Because he got the final say-so. So it's
should a
his
criminal-
understanding and interpretation that makes it right. Okay, now I'm going to see if the judge know what he talking about.
Who's saying this? The criminal defendant?
That's the only
Because
person I'm
the-
talking to.
Okay.
That's the
So-
only person I'm talking to.
So do you believe that the average criminal defendant that's stepping up in front of the judge at any time that the proceedings need to be explained, that the judge should be believed over the attorney?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Yes.
So a person's feelings would, oh man, I don't trust this lawyer. Like you say, he's appointed from the 18B panel because I can't afford an attorney, or the CJA, Criminal Justice Act panel in the federal level because he can't afford the attorney, even though he got, how many Mercedes? Three,
Four.
Four. Right, but he can't afford an attorney at the time of the arrest. So that he puts more faith in what the judge said. So basically what I'm saying, and it's real briefly, I want to say something after that. So the average person will have more faith in what the judge says than the attorney.
That's if they knew to ask the judge. Why? A lot of them
Okay,
don't know
okay, that's
because
what-
they take their attorney's word.
On face
Right?
value.
Listen,
Okay.
this is what goes on.
Tell
That
me
if you
about it.
go into an arena and you don't know the terminology,
Mm-hmm.
but you got a guy standing next to you saying, I'm here to help you, that
Okay.
you're going to believe that. You're really going to believe that. He's here to help me. But you don't know what the hell he's talking about. So if you don't know what he's talking about, then how can you formulate a question to ask the judge? That's why you have to always ask questions, right?
I
But
agree.
what we're saying to y'all is go and learn it yourself. The information is at
Right
your
there.
fingertips.
Yes.
The information is in the library. Most libraries in the state of New York got what's called the legal section, where they got legal books.
What we
And
talking
you
about?
go
Public-
in and you
public
sign-
courthouse libraries?
Public courthouses,
Okay,
they
just let them
public
know.
buildings, so you have a right to them.
Right. Don't
But-
let nobody tell you can't go there for lawyers on it.
But you want to psych yourself out with, I got a lawyer.
And most
Just
people
let
relies
on me
that.
tell y'all this, the average lawyer is dumb as a motherfucker.
What
I
you mean
tell
by
you
that?
no lie.
They didn't learn nothing to pass the bar, nothing?
They didn't learn shit and they don't know shit. I tell you no lie. The average lawyer is dumb as a motherfucker. Take my word for it. And if you're in jail, you definitely know that what I'm saying is right. If you're in jail, it's the lawyer's fault. I said that before. If you're in jail, it's the lawyer's fault.
Everything get blamed on the attorney.
You know.
And like we said last time, the leading case on that is Strickland versus Washington.
Which they're
Oh,
getting
I
ready to tamper with. They're
Oh.
getting ready to tamper with that.
I think the site is 466 US 688.
Yeah, well,
Whatever
I
it
don't
is.
know, but
Strickland
don't
versus
look.
Washington.
Google it.
You can Google
Google it.
This is why I wanted to get in. Speaking of jail, I was in prison today. I was in the state prison today.
Mm.
I went to visit my son, and he told me something. I was talking to him, I had a conversation with him, and I was saying, I said, son, why are you here? Because I know a couple of people that's in the same spot.
Mm.
I said, why are you here? I said, do they still have the college program where you can get degrees? He said, yeah, Dad. but I don't qualify. I said, what do you mean you don't qualify? You're an inmate, a prisoner, you're convicted, you're sitting behind bars. Why don't you qualify? He said that now the system is only allowing people who have 2 years or less to participate in the college program.
Well, they must have just started the college program back, because I know they had terminated in the state of New York, and the jail that he's in, the only course they offered was theology.
Okay.
It was a theology course, right?
Right.
But they, you know why they stopped the college program
I would
in jail?
assume it stopped brothers from being equipped to come out to society with a document that will allow them to get a self-sustaining job.
That's part of the reason.
Okay,
But
what's that
now,
part?
this is statistically proven that people who did 10 years or more, who did go to college, that the statistics was that they
Recidivism
would,
rate
the
drop.
recidivism rate was like
That's what I'm talking
12%. So 88% never returned back. And you've heard me say, I said it last week,
What?
jails are big
Business.
business, man.
Right.
They big business.
So
man.
why educate them so they could not come back?
Yeah, hey,
We're losing business if we do that.
yeah, that they definitely is, and this something else I need to let the youth know. Those who got children, and even those that got grandchildren, right? They
Okay.
banking on your children being in jail 20 years from now. They banking on them. So if you don't learn something of substance to give to your child or to your grandchildren, chances is that somebody will be visiting them. You know, this is serious, man. Like, you know, like we take shit for granted, and like some people even think we're incapable of learning. I did not go to school for this. I went to prison. I was forced to learn this. I had life in prison. I was forced either do like the lawyer said, TA, you ain't never going home. I've actually had a lawyer come and see me and tell me that.
Yeah.
Really, I just wanted to visit because I ain't have no money to pay the lawyer, but I said, fuck that, I'll make it look good.
So how he came up there?
He came on the visit to see me. He
Oh,
thought I
okay.
had money. He said, TA, they ain't gonna never let you go. And I laughed at him. I did exactly what you just did. I laughed at him, man.
Right.
And for the next 2 years, I walked around the yard, smoking, sniffing, drinking, all that, right? Until I met an elder dude who passed in jail. May Allah be pleased with him. His name was Harold Fox. And he said, young blood, I've been watching you, man. And
Right.
like I told y'all on the very first episode, I said, what the hell you mean you've been watching me? He said, no, you got the package, man. I like the way you carry yourself. I like your conversation with the individuals you talk to. He said, it's a key in that room. And like I told y'all, I went in there looking for a real key. And after about 60 days, I stopped in the middle of the room and I took a look around. And every book in the law library has a key on it. It has a key on it. Every book in the law library has a key on it. I started
key
reading
represent on
that
the
day.
book?
The
Let
key
them know.
represents freedom, if you ask me, because I found my way out, right?
But in a legal sense.
But in legal sense, the key is just something that leads you to the section you're supposed to be in, right?
Right.
Like you all might be dealing with wills, so the book will say key 872. So you know that when you open this book, go straight to 872, and that's dealing with wills, right?
872 is the page.
No, yes, you're absolutely. It's actually the section.
Okay.
It's actually the section, not the page. So you would turn to section 872, because at the top of the page it would say wills 872. It would also say wills 869. So you know that's not what you want, because you're looking for section 872, right?
Okay.
And that's what the key represents, right?
Okay.
And just as I said, the key also represents freedom. It's like finding a needle in the haystack.
Haystack is
There's
the page.
more losing cases than winning cases.
Do they publish losing cases?
Yes, they. You better believe. You better believe most of these briefs these lawyers give you are filled with losing cases. There's nothing about a loser's case that can help me.
You don't think a loser's case would show you what way not to go?
There's nothing about a losing case that can help me. I don't know about you. I'm speaking about me.
Right.
If you're doing a brief to get out of jail, every case should say reverse, 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 reverse.
Right.
That's what's called arguing from a winner's point of view.
Okay.
That's what that's called. But when you deal with cases where guys have lost, if he lost, what make you think you're going to win?
Well, I would say a little bit different. Me personally, I find usage in losing cases because, like you say, reverse, 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 that's a winner, right? But to me, in my experience, the best thing a losing case could do for me is tell me what not to argue.
Let me tell you what
That's
happens
what it tells
with
me.
a losing case. That when the judge get the brief and he open it up and he sees that case you cited, right? Which is a losing case. Which is a losing case. He sees you cited it, right? He needs go no further.
It makes his mind up.
He needs go no further.
But
Because he
even
know
the
this
judge
case
gonna
to
read
be
the
a
brief.
losing case.
But even the judge ain't gonna read the case. It's the clerk, his clerk.
Yeah, I'm right about that too. But sometimes you do get a judge
That'll crack that brief
will
open
read.
and start reading it.
There's a great judge in the state of New York. His name is called. Matter of fact, he sits on the federal bench right now in Iceland. His name is Arthur D. Spat. I actually saw
Spat.
at a seminar he did one time, and this for the brothers who doing appeals. He said, "Don't give us no 7, 8 issues. Give us your top 3 issues, man. Give
Cut
us
it
your
short.
top
Get
3
straight to the
issues,
point.
man.
Yeah.
Get straight. All that other shit, they ain't reading all them 92 pages and all that. That if you can't make your argument in your top 3 issues, then you need to go back into the law library.
Right. Cut it down.
You need to go back in there, man.
Get straight to the point.
You know, get straight to the point, man. You know, I did a 440 in the state of New York. And when the lawyer went to argue it, Gloria Goldstein, who sits on the appellate division, I really don't know if she's still there, but she said, told the lawyer, you don't even have to open your mouth. The case is won off the papers. I raised 3 issues. That's all I raised was 3 issues. You know, now the lawyer himself, who is a good friend of mine today, he sent me a brief. I said, that's no good. He sent me another one. I said, that's unacceptable.
Okay.
He sent me a letter. You write it. And I wrote it. Reverse, 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 reverse. You tell them what your issue is, and then you give them the case law that supports your issue. I just looked at a brief for the lawyer did up in the 3rd department. He talking about Nassau County Court, Brooklyn Court. 3rd department don't care about neither one of them. That if you in the 2nd department,
Argue 7.
you raise 2nd department,
Case.
Court of Appeals, federal court, back to 2nd department. The 2nd department don't care what the 3rd department do. 2nd department don't care what the 1st department do, and vice versa. Anything outside of that district is called persuasive.
Right. You can
That's-
use it for persuasive
Yeah.
to help push your argument. But that judge is not bound by that. Second
Not at
department judge is not bound by the 3rd department's decisions.
He ain't bound by what Manhattan say.
So therefore, we're talking about state law. So therefore, it's not uniform. Uniform means consistent all the way around.
No.
It's jurisdiction.
It's definitely
It's
jurisdiction.
That means what you said just then. Second department
It's not bound by what
the
the
3rd
only
department
thing
or the
they're
1st
bound
department.
by is what the Court of Appeals say. And each
So
one
that
of,
should be for
and
each
each one
department.
of these departments is bound by what. But this was my issue. A guy in the 3rd department is talking about a case from Nassau County, from Manhattan, third
second and
department is not bound to even look at that.
Now, how about we just give a brief statement of the structure of the courts that we talking about? Because right now we're talking about state court. So on the criminal level, you got the boroughs, Supreme Court, right?
No. You got criminal court,
That's
Supreme Court,
okay, the structure.
the appellate division, the Court of Appeals. So,
Right.
in all actuality, the highest court in this state is the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
The next court is whatever appellate department you're in. Then
mean
you got
under?
Supreme Court. Then you got
going down now.
county court. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
You're going down.
I want them
Right.
to understand that.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, like, and that's just like another example. Now, I
Yeah.
just gave you the 4 courts for the state, from bottom to top, top to bottom. You still have another avenue
After the Court of Appeals.
that you can use after the Court of Appeals.
Didn't we argue that before?
You know,
And what avenue is that?
that's a federal Hague that you can file,
There we
right?
go.
That you can file a federal Hague, right? And they necessarily don't have to let it in. Because if it's denied, then you got another avenue. What's that?
Deny where? Federal court?
Yeah.
Some people, you can go back on another 440.
No.
Yeah, you
If
can.
you're in, we're not talking about that.
Oh, okay.
I said if the feds deny you, what's your next avenue?
Got me on that one.
It's called the COA, a
Oh,
certificate of
Appealability.
appealability to go higher.
When you said denied at the federal level,
Yes.
that's a part of the appeal process, COA. I won one of those on
Yeah.
a gun case.
It's called the
Wait.
COA.
Beautiful judge. I'm so glad she's where she's at. She come from the Bronx, and she's now from the United States Supreme Court. She granted my COA. Remember, I'm gonna go back. Remember, I was telling you about the judge. Well, it was a cat plea in my case. It was a cat plea, but what I did was, I said, okay, even if it's a cat plea, if I get the excuse me, if I get the conviction vacated, he might say it's a cat plea, but I'm entitled now to resentence without consideration of that in the PSI. Now that opens the door to allow me to re-argue or to move to take my plea back, right? So what I did was I put in the writ. The defendant was the warden. I think I was in FCI Otisville, FCI school killer. Anyway, the district judge denied me. I put in for a COA, certificate of appealability, which you cannot get unless you have a meritorious issue, meaning you have an issue that you got good ground for. So I got denied by the district judge, and I put in for the COA, and she granted it. She granted it.
Let me
And
say
send the
this
case back.
real quick, Juan.
Go ahead.
Most issues with the state are statutory.
Okay.
Most issues with the feds is constitutional.
You talking about post-conviction issues?
I'm talking about most issues, whether
Wait.
post-conviction
Wait.
or not. See,
Pre-conviction? Because if you're saying the state is statutory, and you said the feds was what?
constitutional. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I said, right?
I
And-
partly disagree because
Okay, well, you know.
if you
do
charge
have that,
under statute and under federal law.
which is
These are
governed by,
statutes.
which is governed by the Constitution, right?
Okay.
There's
But
dudes. Just let me finish.
They're protected by the Constitution.
Just let me say this.
Go ahead.
There's dudes that put in appeals with the feds, right? Whether on the state level or even on the federal level.
Okay.
If you're not raising a constitutional violation,
Right.
chances is that shit ain't going nowhere.
Okay. I agree with
chances is it's not going nowhere. You know, they got something that they put in all pleas, right? That you waive your right. If you find an infirmity in the statute, you waive your right. I can't recall the name of the case, right? But it's virtually impossible to waive a constitutional violation.
Exactly.
It's virtually impossible.
But let me go back to something you said. If you're in jail, it's the lawyer's fault.
I always.
But in those same pleas now, I'm talking about on federal level now. 99% of those pleas have an exception. And the exception is you waive your rights to those issues you was talking about, except for ineffective assistance of counsel.
Which they're working on changing that right now.
Yeah, I heard. And Clarence Thomas is leading the way.
Yeah, you know.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, anything you heard us say, you can Google it to verify, clarify, to understand. Most of this stuff is basic to me and him, but if you need any assistance, we're going to give you a number at the end of the show. And right now, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ykim from the Law Library. We'll be right back.
Don't be mad, yeah, we both got needs. I can't call it, it's up in the breeze. We like cheap thrills, we like screams. Not much sleep on nights like these. Headboards in the background. Time to get loud when we act out. Good times and it's just for me. Put that on me, put that on. Oh yeah, I know what you needed, girl, I'm all yours. Take it to the top floor.
Peace, this is TA. It's my brother Ykim.
Peace, this is Ykim, and you are at the Law Library.
And it's good to talk about the law, man. It's something that I could talk about all day long. I really can, you know. Knowledge is infinite. First, let me say that I do not know everything about the law. I am not a lawyer, but I seek knowledge, man. I seek knowledge. I try to help my people as much as I can, especially the youth. You know, you always gonna hear me talk about the youth because I'm stuck on the youth because they our future for real. You know, I hope some of the stuff we said tonight that you take heed to. I hope the brothers who locked up and can hear us or get wind about us, I hope they say, you know what, let me see if these dudes know what they talking about, man. For real. The only way I know out of jail is the law library, especially if you have an excessive amount of time. You know, there's brothers who I knew did 20 years, fought every day, and they are now free because of the law, you know. So, you know, you got to get with it, man. You got to get with it. This is our only tool to really beating these people and being successful, man. You know, I guarantee you, if you take an interest in the law will take an interest in you, man. Critical and consequential thinking is what we're about. Knowledge is infinite. Man, stay with us, man. Please like, subscribe. That's the only way that we can do this, is do a like and subscribe, man. You know, my brother's gonna give you a phone number that y'all can send comments to. Hopefully in the near future that we'll be hooked up where we can get your comments directly or your questions directly so we can answer them as we go along. Peace. That my name is TA.
Peace. This is Ykim. You're at the Law Library. So, in closing for tonight's episode, I want to say, if you have any questions or comments and you want to talk to us directly, we have a number that's available for use by the public and our viewers. That number to call in is 347-238-7698.
Could you
That's
repeat that? Thank you. Because I'm trying to learn it as you go along.
347-238-7698. Now my brother knows he good with numbers. He could have waited to say that. But anyway, so that's the calling number. We here. We're available for you. And what I just want to make perfectly clear, like my brother just said, we are not lawyers. most of the 95% of the information that we're giving you is we have self-disclosed different crimes, different convictions, different sentences that we have actually experienced and done on our own. I got interested in the law when I was 17 years old, locked up for a murder charge on C-74 on Rikers Island. So the next thing I want to tell you is we are not attorneys. I might have said it before, but I'm saying it again just to be crystal clear. We don't give out legal advice. We give out legal information. There's a difference. The only persons that can give out legal advice are professional trained attorneys that is practicing law or have passed that state's bar exam. That's the test you take after law school to become a licensed attorney. So we're not that. We are individuals who experience real life criminal activity and punishment. I've been punished so much that at 61 years old now, I'm scared to spit out the window. I don't even speak because I ain't trying to see no jail cell. And just like I'm not trying to see a jail cell, I'm going to give you all the legal information that I have to avoid you from ever seeing a jail cell. Or if you're already in a jail cell, the legal information that me and my brother going to give you is intended to shorten your stay. So we love you. We want you to love us. Log in, subscribe, like, do all that. So this is the end of this episode. One more time, the calling number is 347-238-7698. 347-238-7698. That's the Law Library with Ty. That's T.A. and Ykim. Peace.
Peace.